Very good evening, my dear friends. Today's eminent resource person, Dr.P. MANJULA Madam Garu, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, Government Degree, RBVRR Women's College, Autonomous Hyderabad. Madam is going to explain one of the important area of plant ecology. So listen carefully, my dear friends. Madam, please start your session.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, is it visible screen?
Yes, madam. Yes, your screen is screen sharing is started, but not clearly visible. Yes, madam. Now it's visible. Madam, it's
okay. Good evening, students. So today's topic is ecological adaptations of xerophytes. In last class, we discussed about ecological adaptations of hydrophytes. So adaptations mean that is any physiological or behavioral or morphological or anatomical characters of an organism that enables it to survive and reproduce in its respective habitat. It is called as a ecological adaptation. That is to survive in adverse conditions for the nutrition purpose or other factors. So some changes in the organisms, it may be organisms habitat, it may be in the morphologically, that is in the morphological characters may change in the morphological characters, or anatomical or physiological functions of the organism will change to adapt to particular environment, to survive in particular environment. So it is called as a ecological adaptation. So adaptations helps the organisms to exist under the prevailing ecological habitat. So plants have special traits and that help to enlarge their tolerance limits. So they can tolerate generally the plants have the ability to tolerate to some conditions like light, or dry conditions, or high temperatures, or water saturated conditions, or saline environmental conditions. They have the ability to tolerate these conditions. So on the basis of light intensity, plants are grouped into two types, that is xerophytes and heliophytes. So xerophytes means they are shade loving plants. That is, they generally, these xerophytes, they grow under the shade of the trees. So they are called as the shade loving plants. Xerophytes are called as the shade loving plants. So generally we observe that so under the trees, large trees, small plants can grow. So this is an example for xerophytes. So and heliophytes, then generally they adapted to high intensity of light. So that is, they generally grow in and they in the open areas, that is they require light for their growth. So they are called as the heliophytes. So xerophytes means they grow under the shade, hence they are called as the shade loving plants. And heliophytes means they are grow under the high intensity of light, that is they required light for their growth. So they are called as the heliophytes. So on the basis of habitats, that is availability of water. So again they are classified into 5 types. Hydrophytes means they grow near or in the water body. So they are called as a hydrophytes. So they require water for growth. So mesophytes, they can grow in, they required optimum water and dry conditions. Epiphytes means the plants which grow on other plants. So they are called as the epiphytes. Halophytes means they generally the plants which grow in saline conditions. So they are called as the halophytes. And xerophytes means the plants which grow in dry conditions. They are called as the xerophytes. In last class, we discussed about these hydrophytes and adaptation, morphological, physiological, and anatomical adaptations of hydrophytes. So today's class, we will discuss about these xerophytes. So xerophytes means, xerophytes, these are the plants that grow in desert or in dry situations. So they are called as the xerophytes. So the plants growing in xeric habitat, that is dry habitats, is greatly modified in form and develop some special features to absorb more and more water from, because they are growing in the dry habitat. So they require water. So for this purpose, here to absorb more and more water from the surroundings, so they have some adaptation, like Like, so here the root system is well developed, that is branched root system is seen in xerophytes. So to absorb more and more water from the surroundings and to retain more and more water in their organs for long time and to reduce the consumption of water. So here some of the adaptations for this. So generally these are growing in the dry habitat. So they store water during the, when the water is available during the rainy season, they store water. Or sometimes to for the observing the water from the soil. So here they are well developed root system is seen like that. So here some of the adaptation. So xerophytic habitat can be of two different types. So here the xerophytic habitat, it may be of two types, that is physical dryness or physiological dryness. So physical dryness means in this habitat soil has a little amount of water, that is the plants which growing in a little amount of water, so they are called as a physical dryness. And physiological dryness means in these habitats water is sufficiently present but plants are unable to observe it. Okay, so in this, so here physically dry means, so here the soil, the plants which growing in the dry habitat, so there is no water availability. Whereas in physiological dryness, so even though water is available, they cannot absorb the water. So it is physiological dryness. So here two conditions, physical dryness and physiological dryness. So xerophytic habitat can be of two different, that is physical means the plants which growing in the dry habitat, so there is no water availability. Whereas the physiological dryness is even though the water is present but the plants are unable to observe it, so it is called as a physiological dryness. So again here xerophytes are classified into three categories. So here they are called as ephemerals, succulents and non-succulent plants. So first one is the ephemerals. So ephemerals means they are also known as the drought escapers or drought evaders. So during the drought conditions they cannot survive, so they complete their life cycle before the drought conditions prevailing, so called as a drought escapers. Grow in arid places and complete their life cycle within a short period during rainy season. So during the rainy season only they complete their life cycle. When the dry conditions are prevailing, so there is they cannot live in that condition. So during that, so they complete their life cycle in a short period during the rainy season. So they are called as the ephemerals. So drought escapers. So pass dry season in seeds and fruits and which have hard and resistant seed coat. So during the dry conditions, the seed they are present in the form of seeds and fruits. So seeds have the hard seed coat and they can resist during the dry conditions. So when the rainy season comes, so during that season, so here the seeds will germinate and they complete their life cycle. So it is called as the ephemerals. So examples for ephemerals are Solanum, Xanthocarpum, Cartamus species, Archimon mexicana, Molugo verticillata, Tribulus terrestris, Astragalus, Artemisia, Tephrosia purpurea, and grasses. So examples for ephemerals are here Solanum, Xanthocarpum, Cartamus, Archimon mexicana, Molugo verticillata, Tribulus terrestris, Astragalus, and Artemisia, Tephrosia purpurea, and grasses. So this one is the Solanum xanthocarpum. So Cartamus species. So this one is Molugo verticillata, Tribulus terrestris. So this one is the Tephrosia purpurea and Archimon mexicana. So these are the examples for ephemerals. So first one is the ephemeral. So ephemerals means drought escaping, and they are commonly known as the drought escapers because during the drought conditions they cannot survive, but they are present in the form of seeds and fruits. During the rainy season only they will complete. So when the water is available, in that condition only they are completing their life cycle. So they are called as the drought escapers. So examples are Solanum xanthocarpum, Cartamus, Archimon mexicana, Molugo verticillata, Tribulus terrestris, Astragalus, Artemisia, Tephrosia purpurea, etc. and grasses. So next one is succulents. So they are called as the drought enduring plants. So some organs become smaller, so they can survive in the dry conditions only. So some grass, some organs become smaller and fleshy, so store water in their plant parts during the dry period and develop certain adaptive characters to resist extreme drought conditions. So the succulents, they are also known as a drought enduring plants, and so they have some organs. They become, they store water, so becomes fleshy, or sometimes they reduce in size and become smaller. So they store water in their plant parts during the dry conditions. So develop certain adaptive characters to resist extreme drought conditions. So examples for succulents are Opentia, aloe, euphorbia, bryophyllum, and begonia. So these are the succulents. So these are called as a drought enduring plants, that is drought tolerant plants. So Opentia, aloe vera, bryophyllum, and begonia. So these can survive during the dry conditions also. So euphorbia. So these are the examples for succulents. So during the, that is during when the water is available, in that condition they store water, and during unavailable condition, during the dry conditions, they use this stored water for their activities, physiological activities. So these are called as the succulents. Succulents means they store water in their pots. So next one is a non-succulents. Third one is a non-succulent. So they are called as the drought-resistant plants. So these are the true xerophytes. So non-succulents, they are called as the true xerophytes, because here in succulents, so they store water during when the water is available. During that condition, they are storing the water and using during the dry conditions. But here non-succulents, they are the true succulents and drought resistant plants. So they face both external and internal dryness, so have many adaptations to resist dry conditions. So examples for non-succulents are casuarina, nerium, gigifus, Calotropis, Procera, Saccharum, Salvadora, and Acacia. So these are the examples for non-succulent. So casuarina, nerium plant. So Calotropis, Acacia, and Gigifus. So these are the examples for non-succulent. So these are the true succulents, because they are facing both external and internal dryness. So these are the, so here the xerophytes, they are classified into three types. First one is ephemeral, second one is a succulents, and third one is the non-succulent. So ephemerals, they complete their life cycle in a short period, that is during the, when the water is available, in that condition only they are completing their life cycle. Whereas in succulents, so they store water during when the water is available, during that condition they store water in their leaves or stems, and during dry conditions they utilize this water. Whereas hence they are called as the drought enduring plants. Whereas the drought here last, that is last one, that is non-succulents, they are called as the true true xerophytes, because they are facing both dryness, both externally and internally. So these are the true succulents. So examples for this is casuarina, nerium, gigifus, calotropis, procera, saccharum, salvadora, and acacia. So next one is adaptations of xerophytes. So generally when we observe the morphological adaptations in xerophytes, so here the roots, first we will come from roots, stem, and leaf. So first one is a root. So roots are well developed, and roots are strongly developed and greater size, so they and branched also. So root hairs extend up to root tip, and root become fleshy and store water in asparagus, and roots go deep into the soil in search of water. So here the roots, so in xerophytes the root system is well developed. Example for this is cactus, and roots are strongly developed and of greater size. It is seen in calotropis, and root hairs are present in opentia. So here the root becomes fleshy and store water. Here the root stores water. So example for this is asparagus, and roots go deep into the soil in search of water. So here the root system is well developed in xerophytes. So second one is shoot. Second one is shoot. So the shoot is generally hard and woody. So here the shoot, so when we observe the hydrophytes, so hydrophytes, the root system is not well developed because the total plant will absorb the water, whereas in xerophytes, a well developed root system is seen. And next one is the shoot. So shoot is generally hard and woody, whereas in hydrophytes it is very smooth. Okay, so the shoot is generally hard and woody, and it is mostly covered with hairs, wax, and silica. And prominent bark is present in some woody xerophytes to check transpiration. So here the shoot is generally very hard and woody, and it is covered with hairs, wax, and silica. And prominent bark is present in some woody xerophytes to check transpiration. And the stem forms leaf-like structure called as a phylloclades. So phylloclades means modification of stem into leaf. It is called as the phylloclade. So example for phylloclade is cactus. So this is important point. So phylloclade means stem. Here the stem modified into leaf. It is called as the phylloclade. So this is the important point. Example for this is cactus. And leaf-like structure formed by the leaf is called as a cladode in asparagus and ruscus. From a leaf-like structure which is formed from the axil of the leaf. So it is example for this is it is called as a cladode. It is seen in asparagus and ruscus. So this is the opentia. So this one is the here the stem only, this leaf like expanded green colored leaf like structure. So it is the stem only. So and the stem is modified into leaf. It is an adaptation, that is phylloclade modification. Phylloclade, that is leaf stem modified into leaf like structure. It is called as the phylloclade. Example opentia or cactus. So here the phylloclade means, so here the leaf like structure which is observed developed from the axil of the leaf. So it is called as the phylloclade, cladophyll. Okay, phylloclade means leaf modified in a shoot, stem modified into leaf. Okay, so cladode means leaf-like structure formed from the axil of the leaf. So it is called as a cladode, asparagus and ruscus. So here in ruscus scale leaves are observed. So these are the cladodes. But so here asparagus also, here these are the cladodes. Here the stem. So here these are the cladodes. Leaves are modified into reduced form. So here next one is the leaves. So the leaves are modified to reduce. So here the leaves are modified to reduce the transpiration. So generally on the leaf stomata are present. Stomata helps in the transpiration. Whereas so here the leaves here there is no water. So here the to reduce the transpiration, here the leaves are modified into the structures are reduced in size to minimize the transpiration. So leaves are classified into 4 types here. So sclerophyllous leaves, trichophilous, microphyllous, and malacophyllous. So first one is the sclerophyllous leaf. So here these are the modifications in the leaves. So here the leaves are stiff and hard, which is seen in Banksia. So sclerophyllous means stiff and hard leaves. So they are called as a sclerophyllous. And trichophilous leaves. So phyllis means leaf. Tricho means hairs. Trichome means hair. So leaves are covered with hairs. It is seen in Nerium and Calotropis. And the leaf surface, so small hair-like structures are seen. So it is called as a trichophilous. Microphyllous. Another one is a microphyllous. So leaves are smaller in size and reduced. So here the leaves are reduced to small size. So the examples for this is asparagus, casuarina, and pinus. Malacophyllous. So here the leaves are soft and fleshy. So here the leaves are small, soft and fleshy. Examples are begonia and solicornia. So malaco means leaves are soft and fleshy. So many species are leafless and cylindrical stems expose small surface to transpiration. In some species, the leaves are reduced. So here the stem only has a small surface to transpiration. So these are the modifications in the leaf. So sclerophyllous means, so here the based on the adaptations in the leaves. So they are classified into 4 types. So sclerophyllous means leaves are stiff and hard. Example, Banksia. And trichophilous means leaves are covered with hairs. Nerium and Calotropis. Microphyllous means leaves are smaller in size and reduced. Example, Asparagus, Casuarina and Pinus. And Malacophilous means leaves are soft and fleshy. Begonia, Solicornia. So in some, leaves are reduced. So that is leafless condition is also seen in some xerophytes. So next one is anatomical adaptations of xerophytes. So here the leaf tissues are closely packed and have thick cuticle. So whereas in hydrophytes, thin cuticle may be absent, or it may be, if the present, it is thin. But whereas here in xerophytes, leaf tissue is closely packed and have thick cuticle. Example, dianthus and agave. So thick layer of grains outside the cuticle form the reflection of light. So 3 layers of thick walled epidermis. That is, here the epidermis is 3 layered. It is seen in ficus and nerium. So sunken stomata. This condition is also seen in nerium. So generally stomata, which helps in transpiration, but here the stomata is present and it is present in a inside. So presence in a sunken condition. So it is called as a sunken stomata. So generally stomata which is present on the upper epidermis. So here it is present in the stomatal chamber. So it is called as a sunken stomata. So palisade layer well developed and are found next to the upper and lower surface. So generally in the leaves, palisade tissue and spongy tissue are present. So palisade layer well developed and are found next to the upper and lower surface. So lower and upper epidermal side. So here the palisade layer is seen. So spongy tissue between 2 palisade layers. So here well developed palisade and spongy layers are seen in ficus and nerium. So epidermis is thickly covered with trichomes and has vascular hairs in leaves. So here the vascular hairs which are seen in the leaves of Atriplex. So epidermis is thickly covered and with a trichome. So on the epidermal region, so small hair-like growths are also seen. They are called as the trichomes are present on the epidermis. So oil and resin also present. So presence of sap and latex in euphorbia and cactus. And epidermal cells are radially elongated to absorb necessary amount of light. Intercellular spaces are only few and also very small. So here the intercellular spaces are also absent, are less in number. Whereas in hydrophytes, internal air chambers, air cavities are seen. But here intercellular spaces are less in number. So mechanical tissues like cholenchyma, bast fibers and sclerenchyma are well developed. Here the mechanical tissue, that is sclerenchyma, they are well developed, and presence of water storage tissue. So here the water storage tissue is present, and vascular tissues are present in large amount. So here the vascular tissues are so well developed because the main function of vascular tissues is conduction of water and nutrients, because they are growing in the dry habitat. So mainly, so here the vascular system is well developed in xerophytes. So conductive tracts are prominent and vessels being larger and longer and thicker. So here the well developed vessels, and xylem cells are smaller in size. So annual rings are well developed. Dead tracheids, parenchyma and mucilaginous substances are generally present for absorption and retention of sufficient amount of water. So here the tracheids, parenchyma and mucilaginous substances, they are also present. So these mainly helps in the absorption and retention of the sufficient amount of water. So they mainly helps in the absorption of water and also retention. So some grasses close or roll leaves in dry season. So during the dry season, so the leaves will become roll due to presence of motor or bulliform cells in the epidermis. So these cells are sensitive to changes in turgor, and this result in upward rolling of leaves and cutting of the stomatal contact with external atmosphere. So this is called as the hydrocasy. So here So this is also a special character that is due to presence of these motor or bulliform cells. So generally these are seen in grasses. So during dry conditions, these grasses rolling of grasses will takes place. Rolling of grass, that is, so generally on the stomata and the leaves stomata are present. So and the leaves stomata are present. So stomata helps in the transpiration. So during the dry conditions, so they can so what to reduce the loss of water from the leaves, so that leaves will roll inside. So due to presence of these motor or bulliform cells, so this is called as the hydrochloric acid. So this is also important point. So generally it is seen in grasses. So here the rolling of the leaf. So these are the examples of xerophytes. So TS of stem of the casuarina. So it contains epidermal hairs. So thick cuticle. So here the cuticle is present. Epidermis and sclerenchyma mechanical tissues are well developed here. And stomata is in sunken condition. So it is present inside. So generally in this place only, on the epidermal region only, stomata are present, but it is present inside. So near stomatal chamber, here the stomata is present. So sunken stomata is seen, and also the leaf traces and well developed vascular tissues also observed in xerophytes. So this is the another xerophyte, that is TS pinus. So here also, here the sunken stomata, here the hypodermis, which is made up of sclerenchyma. And so here the epidermis is thick walled epidermis, and cuticle is well developed cuticle on the epidermis. So sunken stomata and the mesophyll cells are also well developed endodermis, and here here the vascular tissues also well developed, and cambium is also present. So it helps in the secondary growth. So here this is the another one, that is another TS of nerium. Okay, so nerium, so it contains this one here, the two multi-layered epidermis. So it contains upper epidermis and also the lower epidermis. So here on the upper and lower epidermis, here the palisade tissues are present, and inside here the spongy tissue. So here it stores crystals, calcium oxalate crystals are stored in this region. So here this one is the lower epidermis. So here the stomata, sunken stomata, that is, it is stomata which is present in the stomatal pit, and here the stomata which is covered with the hair, stomatal hair here. So this one is the another xerophyte nerium. So these are the ecological adaptation, that is the anatomical adaptations of xerophytes. So mainly in anatomical adaptation, so first one is the here the leaf tissues are closely packed and have the thick cuticle. So the presence of thick cuticle, sunken stomata, presence of palisade, well developed palisade layer, and here the epidermis, thick walled epidermis, presence of oil and resin canals, presence of sap and latex, and here the cells are radially elongated to absorb necessary amount of light. So intercellular spaces are only a few and are very small. So here the mechanical well developed mechanical tissues like collenchyma, bast fibers, and sclerenchyma, and presence of water storage tissue, and here the well developed vascular tissue. So these are the important anatomical characters in xerophytes, and conductive tracts are prominent, that is xylem and phloem are well developed, presence of annual rings, that is here in xerophytes secondary growth will observe, whereas in hydrophytes secondary growth is absent. And the next one is the bulliform cells, that is motor or bulliform cells. So they mainly helps in the rolling of the leaf. So it is called as the hydrochloric acid, that is, so to survive during the dry conditions, so the leaves, to reduce the transpiration, the folding of into the, that is rolling of leaf will takes place. So this is also important. So these are the examples, that is TS of casuarina stem. So here in this, so thick walled cuticle is observed, epidermis is well developed epidermis, presence of epidermal hairs, and well developed vascular tissues are observed here. So here the in TSS, so here the sunken stomata, and here the hypodermis is made up of hypodermis is made up of sclerenchymatous hypodermis. So this is also a xerophytic condition. So well developed vascular bundles. So here presence of here this crystals, calcium oxalate crystals are seen in medium leaf. So here the stomata, which is it contains stomatal hairs and stomatal pit. Stomata is present inside the stomatal pit. Here also sunken. So here the upper and lower epidermis is observed, and 2 layers of that is upper polysac tissue and lower polysac tissue is also observed here. So next one is the physiological adaptations in xerophytes. So rate of transpiration is greatly reduced because there is here the availability of water is less. So here generally during the transpiration, that is water will be evaporated. So to stop this, so here the rate of transpiration is reduced by here the presence of less stomata. So mainly helps in the to reduce the transpiration. So ratio between the starch and sugar is low, and osmotic pressure is higher, and protoplasm is less viscous and more permeable and resistant to wilting, and bear flowers and fruits earlier. So these are the physiological adaptations of xerophytes. So that today we'll finish ecological adaptations of hydrophytes. Sir.
Yeah. It's very clear. So today Madam has clearly explained about what are the adaptations in xerophytes, ecological adaptations, morphological and physiological, anatomical and physiological adaptations. Madam has clearly explained, my dear friends. Tomorrow we will meet at the same time. Okay, Madam? Thank you.